Welcome to Build. Thank you very much for coming to this session. We're going to spend the next hour talking about games. And before I get started, I kind of want to learn a little bit more about you. So how many of you have coded a Windows Phone or Windows Store game? All right. How many of you are coding PC games? Wow. Great. How about console, Xbox, Xbox One? Great. So show of hands, how many of you are using HTML or JavaScript to code their games? A few. And DirectX, C++, or any other native framework built on top of those? All right, great. Some of you are double dipping, I notice. So there's never been a better time for you to build a game that can target PC, tablet, phone, and Xbox. What you're here today is really exciting for us because you're going to hear about something that we've been working for 3 years, right? For the last few years, every time we come, we're telling you where we're going, and we think we're finally getting there. So I'm really excited to tell you that there's never been a better time. For those of you that raised your hand and said you have a Windows Store game, hopefully after this conversation, you'll want to go in there and say, I'm going to move it to phone. Or if you're on phone, you might want to move it to Windows Store or PC. So, and we're going to walk you through some of the things that we've made progress on, starting with the convergence, right? This whole sharing codes that you keep hearing about. I'm going to cover also middlewares because we know that's very important for gamers. I'm going to cover some of the improvements in tooling. And then in the end, I'm going to talk about some of the new gaming features that you're going to hear about this week. A lot of the new features that are announced with Windows Phone 8.1 that you're going to be able to use immediately. And then we're going to close a little bit with a future, kind of telling you, hey, here's what's coming in Threshold. So a little bit of what's coming afterwards. And this is the Microsoft platform. And as you can see from here, the Microsoft platforms enables you to write games in any language you already know, whether you're an HTML, JavaScript developer, or whether you're the DirectX, C++ developer to raise their hand. You can write games that target PC, phone, anywhere from my Nokia Lumia 520, this really small phone, to my Surface device, to my PC with a 40-inch display, all the way up to the console, right? You have the language of choice, and you have the ability to target our whole platform, all these different screens. And the advantage of that is we also have a shared of code services, right? So for example, if you're coding an Xbox, you're coding to DirectX, and that's the exact same DirectX that you're coding for Windows Phone. So everything you learn and all the code that you have will be very portable, and you'll be able to reuse all your knowledge and all the tooling knowledge that we have as we go across. That's what our strength is. That's what the Microsoft platform is going to give you. So now, if I take that to the next level and I talk about games specifically and where we are on our games platform, here's kind of a view where we were at last year. If you were at Build last year, it was about a year ago. This is kind of the slide that we showed, and we were very proud when we showed this slide. We were like, oh, Windows Phone 8, we're converging on C++, on DirectX. Look at all this stuff that we're sharing, right? You could now write Direct3D games and share all your Direct3D games with Windows Store and Windows Phone. You could use the same X-Audio APIs on both platforms. You can have the same core window application model. You had everything. We were really excited. And we proved this, right? For example, Microsoft Game Studios work on Halo Spartan Assault. Anybody here play that game? It's a great game, right? And it runs great on Windows Store apps, and it runs great on Windows Phone. And they were able to create this sharing all their code. And what they did is they designed and developed the game for Windows Store. And then they said, OK, how much effort is it going to be to move it to Windows Phone? This is a year ago. And it was about a 10% effort, less than 10% effort to move it to Windows Phone. So we were already pretty good. But we were not all done. There was still some work that we needed to do. All these yellow boxes, there were a few issues that we needed to work on. And I'm happy to tell you today that we fixed most of these, and now we're fully converged. For example, if you're writing a Windows Phone application, you can access Direct2D now. Or if you're writing a Windows Phone application or an Xbox One game, you can actually use HTML, right? And on HTML, for example, for Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows Store 1, we now have WebGL. So if you want hardware-accelerated graphics, you can get them out of an HTML platform. Right? We've fully converged on SAML. We've been working on SAML for several years, and it's always been very close. So anybody who knows SAML can code Windows Phone and Windows Store with no problem at all. Right? But it wasn't the exact same engine. It wasn't the exact same SAML. Today, with Windows Phone 8.1, you will be able to use the exact same SAML on Windows Store and Windows Phone 8.1. right? So we fully converge. We brought in Media Foundation. We brought in contracts. We brought in Wi-Fi Direct. All of these are now Windows Phone 8.1 features that you'll be able to live with. The bits that you get this week, you'll be able to live with and actually use for these, right? And then we've also improved our tooling, right? We brought in all the features. We brought into Windows Phone all the features that we had previously released for Windows Store or PC, right? So graphics debugging, shader compilation, all of those things that we talked about last build are now in the platform. So this is our games platform. And again, this lets you go from the smallest phone to the big screen, right? 4 inches to 40 inches, Peter Tour sessions later in the week, right? So this is our strength. This is where we come from, and this is where the vision that we've been executing for the last year. And this is something that we'll continue to build upon, right? And later on, when we talk about the future with DirectX and some of the things you'll hear, all the benefits of us working on the core platform rise up all the way to all other platforms, right? So now we start executing at faster speeds because we're adding features at the core level, and then everything just bubbles up. So if we make an improvement on DirectX and it's much faster, and you're adding over here WebGL, you're still going to get the benefits because WebGL eventually goes to Trident and eventually comes down to Direct3D, right? So that's where we're at. That's our platform as of today. And that's my slides. Let's get down to some code so I can show you how all this stuff works. So I'm going to show you this game first. Most of my demos, actually, you'll be able to get the code. So this is Fall Fury. It's actually a game that, a very simple DirectX game. An intern wrote it last summer. And it was their first game ever, so it was a great exercise for them. And they wrote this summer. It targets Windows Store app. This is actually on the store today. He submitted it. And I'll just give you a little bit of the gameplay here. It's a very simple game. You kind of go around collecting these buttons and try not to get shot. Right? Very, very simple game, but it's actually pretty functional. It's in the store. It's getting decent ratings. Good game, right? Now, the intern wrote it a year ago, and he came in and she said, hey, what am I going to do? And we said, hey, you need to go write a Windows Store game. And he went on. He started coding. He learned everything on his own. He did a really good job. And then he gave us the code back, and he said, here. And we looked at it, and we were like, OK, looks pretty good. And then somebody said, hey, let's move it to phone. And then somebody said, well, now it uses Direct2D. And then the next person said, oh, it also has some D-Write. And oh, it's got these shaders. Oh, it's got all these things. So we looked at it, and we were like, OK, great. Good lesson learned. Right? We were not fully converged at the time. There were some of those issues that I just talked about. And so we could have worked around those issues last year. We could have spent a couple of days and worked around it, because there was workarounds for everything. If you could use Direct3D instead of Direct2D, but it would have been work, right? And it's work that we said, oh, let's just keep moving, and we'll come back to it eventually. And a couple months ago, we said, OK, let's see how we do now. So first day, we opened it up, and we said, well, let's just recompile it for Windows Phone. Half a day, it was working. It was all fun. It was compiling. There was a couple issues there with some sensors and some screen resolutions, things we needed to tweak, mostly because they had hard-coded it on the Windows Phone version. So it wasn't things that were not portable. It was literally small bugs that we had on the old version. But within half a day, we were working. But then we didn't stop there. We said, OK, that's good, but let's go prove it with our new universal app model, with our new universal project model. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. This source code is available on Codeplex. So that's why I'm showing you Fall Fury, because Fall Fury is actually available on Codeplex. So give me a few days, and then I'll upload it to Codeplex, the new universal model using Fall Fury. But let's walk through it so you can see a little bit of how much we're sharing. So this is the original source. Again, what we did here was we created a new project. We said, File, New Universal Project, targets Windows Store and Windows Phone. And then we started copying and pasting all the code onto the shared folder. And that's where most of our logic is. So if you look at the new universal templates, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see this shared folder where everything, or shared project, where everything you want to share, you can put in there. And you'll see here, in our case, 98% of the code is here. All of our assets, our audio, all of our menus, all of the logic is here. All of our shaders are here. So we're literally sharing 98% of the code. If I go in there and open, for example, the Windows configuration, you'll see that all we have is the app.saml and the actual page that's hosting the game. And arguably, we could have actually shared that. We just started, and we did it very quickly, and that's what our first run was like, so I left it alone like that. But right now, all of this code is now shared. Like everything under shared is now available for both Windows 8.1 and Windows Phone 8.1, so you can see it right there, like 90%. This is literally empty on Windows Phone 8.1 here, right? And I can run the exact same game. So let's go here. This is the exact same source. And let me unlock this phone here. And just say, deploy this to the device. And you guys will see me deploy it onto this phone right here. So it's taking a minute. It's real code. See the debugger load. And here I have the exact same game. Touch works out of the box. I can go through my levels. This is actually user on the phone. I'm actually using sensors. Sorry, should have turned that down a little bit. Right? So we're also sharing the sensor code. We're sharing the dig2d code. We're sharing the dwrite code that we had before. So we're there. Right? And it was an afternoon plus and a day of fixing some orientation and some screen resolution issues that they hard-coded because they wrote originally for Surface RT. Right? So that's where we're at today. If you have a game on Windows or if you have a game on phone, this is what you have to look forward to. You can go in there and start sharing code and doing a really great way, really great optimizations and really great enhancements that are minor deltas to a big shared code base that you would actually have. So that's it for us seeing universal projects. I think after this week, you're probably going to be, number one, excited and sick of universal projects because you're going to see it throughout the week, right? Everybody's going to tell you, hey, this is where we're at, this is where we're going. I'm really, really excited. And I have to say, it works better for games. So keep that in mind as you go across. Another area where we're investing a lot into is building our ecosystem. So as we're converging all the technologies, we're in parallel building our ecosystem. And we've made great progress all around. So for example, we brought in PayPal and InMobi and AdMob onto our advertisement and payment ecosystem. We're bringing cloud services like Parse, or we're bringing Flurry Analytics, so we're making good progress there. And then on the gaming space, we're bringing, for example, Corona Labs. They're now in beta, supporting Windows Phone and Windows 8. And same thing for Marmalade. A year ago, Marmalade was only on Windows Phone, and right now they're working on support for Windows 8. So let me show you some of the progress we're making with the partners. I'm going to start right here with Unity. Unity is a framework that we started working with, actually, the RTM about a year ago. So we've had kind of 2 or 3 major releases. And today, we're announcing the Unity beta for Windows Phone 8.1. And that's what I'm about to show you on the demo. What you're going to see is actually Unity as you use it normally, but now exporting universal projects. So let's go right here to Unity. And I have a very simple zombie scenes. Zombies are in, cats are out this year. So I'm just going to go right here the way I normally go build from Unity. And I'm just going to say, go ahead and show you my build settings. And here what we have is, this is the beta. So what you're going to see is we have this Windows Store menu. And what you have here is you have the option to select what SDK you're going to target. And one of the options is universal. So what I'm going to do here is I'll click build, and it's going to create a solution. Let's go ahead. And let's just create an empty folder right here. So I'm just going to call it new live. Now we have a live folder. So, and what it's going to do right now, it's actually going through the solution, and it's building the way Unity normally builds, but it's now going to output a solution that will target a universal project, just like the one I showed you earlier for our Coding for Fan project. So this is going to take a minute. So while we're at it, let me catch you up on where we are with Unity. Unity has gone to 2 or 3 major releases. Again, the RTM last summer. And we're seeing some great momentum. Right now, we have about 4,000 games in our store that are using Unity. It started very slow. So the first 2 months or so, we had a couple hundred games. But we're ramping up very, very quickly. And the friction that there was to come into Unity with porting your game is constantly getting decreased. We have a lot of white papers. We have a lot of great documentation. And as you can see, just from day one, as we are announcing universal projects, Unity is also ready with universal projects. So we're working closely with them. and we're making some really great progress. This should be, it normally doesn't take this long, so it should just be 1 more second. It takes longer when we're watching. There we go. So what you see here, it actually went in, processed the build, and it probably took a little longer than usual because it's actually built in for Windows Phone and for Windows 8. So you'll see it right here, it created this live folder that I showed you earlier, and now I can launch the solution from here. So this will be one Visual Studio solution that has a universal project that will target both Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows 8.1. And I'll show you how much code they're sharing in a minute. So this is their solution. Very much like the Fall Fury one, there's kind of 3 different projects. One of them, that's our shared projects. And Unity actually took it farther and they share everything. For example, right here, you'll notice they share the main page.saml. If I go here into Windows 8.1 project, you'll see they don't have a main page.saml. So they're sharing even more than we're sharing in Fall Fury. So we're ready right there. We have the solution. Let me just go here and set my configuration manager so that I can show it to you in this local machine, because right now it's targeting ARM for Windows. So I'll just go here and change it to x86. And let's go ahead and change it so that we target master on both. And right here, we're master on both, so we're OK. And let me show you the game just on Windows first. So right here, I'll just say build for local machine. And right now, it's just deploying onto the local machine. This is just a sample scene, hasn't been optimized. I didn't tweak the splash screen or anything like that. So here's our zombies, and they're just walking around, and you'll see more zombies come around. And for example, I can knock them out here. So if I tap with touch, or if I use my mouse, I'll just start knocking them out. And the more interesting one is, for example, when I can make them dance a little bit. So it's just a little simple scene. I wanted to show you something that would build quickly enough. So now that's it running on Windows 8.1. I can go back here into the exact same solution, and I'm just going to change my active project. Stop the debugger. Now we're set the active project to be Windows Phone. It changes so that my active target is the device. And let me make sure this is unlocked. I hope I did it fast enough. And let me switch to the Elmo actually while we're doing this, making sure it's in focus. And right there, you see the exact same game. Here I can use touch. Earlier on my PC, I was using mouse, so I can do the exact same game. Just use touch to actually kill the zombies. So you see right there, the exact same game generated out of Unity to Universal Solution, and that way you build once and you target both platforms from within Unity. So, let me just stop the debugger. Now, obviously, targeting 2 platforms from within Unity is a significant improvement, and we're really excited about it. But another area that we found that was very exciting as we moved to this new architecture model and the new application model was that in Windows Phone 8.1, now that Unity can use the same SAML that we're using for Windows 8.1, Unity can take advantage of multi-threaded rendering. So we've been testing still very early. We've been testing with a few partners, and what we're seeing is significantly better performance with Unity games. So for example, everybody here is probably familiar with Subway Surfers. I'm still on the Elmo. So if you're familiar with Subway Surfers, here's what I see Subway Surfers as you have it on the Windows Store today, on the Windows Phone Store. And I'm just going to click tap play. This is Phone 8.1. Sorry, this is Windows Phone 8. And you see a little performance counter there, and it's about 35 frames per second or so. That's what is normally on the store today, climbing up to, in some cases, 37, 40. But that's what you're getting out of Windows Phone 8 today. Now, if I can just stop that, and I'll show you that exact same demo on Windows Phone 8.1. All I've did here is I've taken that exact same source code, I brought in the Unity Phone beta, and I actually recompiled the exact same source code. Didn't change anything, didn't even change the splash screen. So you will see the default splash screen because I didn't tweak any of the code. So all this is doing is running in the new application model, and what you're going to see is, I'll show you. And by the way, if you go to the store today and you see Subway Surfers, they're probably no longer Miami. They release updates often. So if they have a later update, this is a little older build. I just had it updated and I wanted to show you the exact same source code. So here it comes. I'll just do tap to play. I'm trying not to play because I have the Elmo here. But you'll see here, we're seeing 50, in some cases 52 frames per second. So we're seeing a good 20% across some of the games. This is not scientific, so you should not expect that out of every game. But I definitely say give it a shot because you're going to see much better performance out of the new application model if you can actually move to Windows Phone 8.1. So great progress there. Another benefit that we have is that now that we are using the .NET Core compiler, if you're writing Unity scripts that target WinRT, you can just include those straight out into your Unity source code as part of your Unity scripts. You don't need to do wrap them in a plugin like we needed to do for Windows Phone 8. So really great improvements with Unity. And now let me move back to a slide where I tell you about the releases that we have and explain you how we're going in parallel for the next few months. Now, what I showed you there was called Unity 4 Beta for Windows Phone 8.1. So for the next 3 months or so, we're going to have 2 parallel threads or 2 parallel releases of Unity going on. They're going to have 2 different release cycles. The first one is they're going to have something called, they have today something called Unity 4.5 Beta, right? And that one is targeting Windows Phone 8 and Windows Store 8 and 8.1, of course. Right? And there's some really good stuff coming in there. They're also seeing some performance. They've also made some optimizations there where you will see performance improvements. You should be able to see much faster interrupt. So if you're going back and forth to interrupt a lot, you will see that you're going to be, you're going to get some performance benefits, and you're going to see much better memory. So we've improved the memory management, and you'll be able to run better on low memory devices for phone. So that's Unity 4.5 Beta, and that's going to RTM this spring. So we're probably, I don't know, anywhere between 4 or 6 weeks, something along that time frame, just this spring, right? And that's available today. And then the next one is the Unity Beta for Windows Phone 8.1, which again is also available today. From this presentation, you get the link, or you can go to their blog and just find the announcement, and then you can sign up for the beta. And for that, they're probably going to RTM around the summer. Right? We got to RTM first, and then they're going to RTM on their side. And what you're going to get with the Unity Beta for Windows Phone 8.1, you're going to get that converged application model that I just showed you. You're going to get the support for universal projects in Visual Studio. You're going to get that multi-threaded rendering that I just demoed the performance on, and other performance or CLR performance improvements. So you're going to get a lot just for recompiling your code and targeting something that's even sharing more with Windows. So it's something you probably want to do to begin with. So that's where we're at with Unity. Another one that we're making a lot of investments and making a lot of progress has been with open source technologies, right? All the Angle, Cocos, OpenCV, Open Frameworks. Right? For the last year, we've been working a lot. And last year, for example, I was here at Build, and we talked about, we had Angle working. Everybody here know Angle? Right? It allows you to bring OpenGL code onto Windows, because on Windows, we run DirectX. right? But if you have DirectX code, if you have OpenGL code from other platforms, you can use Angle, which is an abstraction library that actually translates that for DirectX, and you can run your OpenGL code on Windows Store and Windows Phone. And a year ago, we had Angle, and that was great, but we had not fully validated it. Since then, we've made a lot of progress. We brought in Cocos 2DX, right? We brought in OpenCV, we brought in OpenFrameworks, and we're shipping a lot of games. So there's already in the store several games from major publishers that are using Cocos 2DX and Angles. So for those of you that have OpenGL technology, just know that we're there. We're open for business, and the technology is actually ready. Let me show you here. This is the standard. Let me go back here. This is the standard test harness that comes with Cocos 2DX. So, and I'll just show it to you running on Windows Phone because a year ago I couldn't show you that. So this is just the standard test harness. So you can see very simple, like for example, actions test where you can just, have people move around, do very simple stuff, right? Skew transforms, rotation transforms, everything else, right? If you want to see something cooler, go look at the particle test. Right here, you can see a lot of particles. You can see throughout this, all these demos are 60 frames per second, so performance is never a problem. We could take higher if we needed to, right? And there's a lot of different tests here. For example, you can go in there and try touch. So all of this stuff works out of the box on both Windows Phone and Windows Store. So that's where we're at with regards to Cocos 2DX. So all I can say there is we're open for business. Everybody asks me all the time, oh, Angle, I have reservations, does it work, etc. Number one, it works. Number two, there's lots of games in the store. So for those of you that are thinking about it, just take the dive. Right? And if you need help, this technology, we have our technology team called Microsoft Open Technologies. They're dedicated to working with open source. So we are contributing, we are supporting, we are keeping an eye on all of these. So this is not something where you're going to take a risk on something that we're going to leave you hanging out alone. We're definitely committed to it, and we're adding a lot of we're contributing very, very aggressively or we're contributing continuously to those platforms. And if you have open ones that you need us to support, just let us know. Moving on to tooling. This is really interesting for me. I talk to people that do games a lot, and we talk about Visual Studio. And everybody will tell me, oh, it's the best IDE out there. Right? How many think Visual Studio is one of the best IDEs out there? See? Those of you who didn't raise your hand, I took your name. I got you. We're going to have you go into some Visual Studio sessions this week until you admit that we are the best IDE out there. No, but the interesting thing is that everybody tells me you have a great code editor. You have a really great debugger. Right? Everybody loves for example, our local and remote debugging. They love a lot of our application coding features. But not everybody knows how much improvements we've made onto our gaming technologies, right? With Visual Studio 2013 RTM, so a year ago when we shipped, we added model editors, we added shader debugger, shader designers, we added compilers for HLSL. We added a lot of things that I feel that half the time when I talk to people, they're like, oh, I didn't know you had that, right? For example, our graphics debugger for Windows Store for last year has been excellent. Right? And whenever I go in there and I troubleshoot something with somebody, they're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. That's much easier than what I've been doing in the past. So that's something I want to kind of highlight. And what we've done with Windows Phone 8.1 is we brought in all of that goodness to Windows Phone. Right? So now we have a really great graphics debugger for Windows Phone. You'll be able to do, for example, graphics per frame analysis. Right? And not only can you do that, but you can also, for example, go in there and capture the frame and then analyze it on your desktop and see everything, kind of like capture and playback. I don't have a demo of that because I need a special driver and certain things to get that running. And it would have added an extra combination of phones that I didn't want to take the risk. But Rong Lu, who's right here on the front, she will have a demo in her session tomorrow. So definitely go back and look. There's a session called DirectX Graphics Tooling. So graphics development with Visual Studio 2013. Anybody who raised their hand, who didn't raise their hand when you said Visual Studio was the best IDE has to go to that. Okay? And if you don't think it's the best after that, then I'm sorry. So no, definitely go check out that session because that's some really, really great demos. And there's going to be a lot of things like every time I watch that session, even I learned something new. So there's definitely going to be a lot of really great stuff there. So that's what we have with regards to building apps, right? But we know that gamers have to go a little bit beyond that, right? You got to think about how you're going to engage, how you're going to monetize, and all this stuff. So let's get into some of the features that we're adding to Windows Phone 8.1 that are going to help you, improve on that. The first thing that we're adding is we're adding contracts onto Windows Phone, right? So anybody here familiar with the contract in Windows Store? Right? 2 or 3 lines of code you could share onto Facebook, Twitter, all kinds of, anybody who implemented a shared target, you could go in there and, share against them. Very, very simple way to connect your application so that you can engage users and drive users back into your apps, right? Invite other users and everything else. So out of the box in Windows Phone 8.1, for example, if you decide, hey, I'm going to implement shared target, which I'm going to show you in a minute in code, you'll be able to share it to Facebook, Twitter, USB, OneDrive, OneNote. There's a lot of targets already out of the box, right? Just somebody that gets a phone, they already have that. Another thing that we've added that I'm really, really excited as a gamer is tiles and notification improvements. We have a notification center on Windows Phone 8.1. Right? So a very common scenario for me is on my games, I used to write that thing where I had a background agent that would detect, oh, I haven't, this user hasn't run in 3 days. So let's go in there and kind of, notify them, or let's go in there and change our live tile, right? So that says, hey, come back, or there's a level waiting, or, here's some special token that we're going to give you, you come back right now, right? And that was great, but whenever I did that, the live tile worked only if I was pinned. Right? And if I try notifications, the notifications will go away after 10 seconds. So if the user wasn't watching at the time or they didn't have the time to play, they wouldn't get it. Right? With Notification Center, those notifications are just going to stay there for a week. Right? So now you really have a great way to engage where you can go back and say, hey, here's your zombie game. Come back. Let's dance tonight. So there's something there that you can actually use. Right? We're adding Facebook integration too. We're actually improving our Facebook SDK to make it more accessible to gamers, right? Our SDK before was written in C#, right? People came to us and said, hey, I want it written in C++, so I don't have to do any kind of loading of the .NET framework in my DirectX game. We're fixing some of those. We're not done with those, so those are going to come end of month, but those will be available. We're going to have a Facebook SDK that's actually a WinRT component, and you'll be able to use it from HTML and JavaScript. You'll be able to use it from your DirectX game, and you'll be able to use it from your C# game still. And then the last one that we're adding, or one of the last ones, I'm not going all comprehensive in all the features. I'm just highlighting a few. One that I'm really, really excited is screen recording. Right? Anybody here seen Xbox One screen recording? Right? So you can actually do that on your game now. And let me show you how easy it will be to add screen recording to that Zombies game that we added. So here, this is the Zombies game that I just showed you. I have a little script. As you can see here, this is loose script that's in there. Again, I don't need a plugin anymore. And I add a screen recording onto that Zombies game. Let's walk through it. Right? So I can come back here. And you see here, I got my poundif macro to make sure that we're running on Windows Phone 8.1. So we have new macros right here. Unity WP_8.1 is what we're using. And here's how easy it is to capture video. So I'm going to go here and just say, hey, create an instance of screen capture. And then actually, initialize some settings where I tell it, hey, here's your settings. I want you to capture video only, so I'm not capturing audio. And I can say, here's the profile that I want you to use. Here's the encoding profile that I want you to use. You might or might not want to rotate the video to keep it simple here. I'm not rotating the video. That's coming it out. And then I just say, start recording to this file. Right? And then I'll get a file that has my recording, and then I can do whatever I want. In this case, what I did was I said, look, let's go ahead and share the file. So let's implement the share contract for anybody who hasn't seen share on Windows Store. So I'm right here going in there and just going to set up share. And here's how you implement the share contract on Windows Store or Windows Phone. It's 2 lines of code. It's the exact same lines, 2 lines of code. It's these right here. I just said, hey, get a data transfer manager, and then call me back, implement the callback, or register for the event when data is requested. And then when data is requested, all I'm saying is, oh, you want data, so here's the video that, that I just recorded. That's it. right? So all of these is probably, I don't know, 30 lines of code. It'll probably be 40 if I had implemented any kind of error handling. And with this, now I can record and share, right? And so let's try it. This is already on the code we compiled earlier. I just got to go back to that project and make sure that, because I'm going to capture video, and this is actually routing to the video library, I'll just go back here to that project and say, edit the manifest. And come on. Go quickly. I'm just going to edit my manifest here. There's a known issue here where you'll see if you try to go in there and edit the manifest, you're going to be told that we're missing some assets. Unity was, it was very cool to actually release something for today, and we just needed to do, and we made a few changes last minute on the number of assets that we have on the template. So I'm just going to say medialtam.ping right here, and then I'll do this for here. And then I'm going to go, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll change my manifest capabilities right here. This uses client, and I'll just give it access to the video library. And then build. And then we'll try deploying it real quick. All right, while it's compiling, I'll show you the backup version to save a time. Oh, there we go. Build. All right, so now I can go back here, switch to the phone. So you see the exact same phone. And so you see the zombie party. It's the exact same game. There's a button at the bottom screen that I didn't show you earlier. I can just click. It says, hey, do you want to record? I say allow. Ooh. That I haven't seen. Let's try it. I'm not nervous because of that error we got earlier, so. Let's try this one. Oh. Let me just make sure there's no. Yeah, that's good. I'm nervous because of that error I got earlier, but it deployed fine earlier, so. I can come back here. It's the exact same. I'll click start. Right now it's recording, so it's recording a little bit over their dance. I'll click stop. And it's coming in and saying, hey, where do you want to share it to? I can, for example, say share it back to Facebook. You see the video there. And then I just say from build. Right, and post it. And you see the message there, uploading video. And we've uploaded your video. And then at the end, if we want to go to Facebook, it's probably going to be there. Right, so I'm going to move fast onto the next one. I'll come back to that one just because I want to save a couple minutes. So let's go right here to my homepage. And right there, you see it. Dance.mp4 from build. The video is already there. 25 lines of code or 30 lines of code, and we got it all the way from capturing your game to publishing all the way to video, all the way to Facebook. So let me go back here real quick. So that's what we're doing with regards to engaging users. A lot of good stuff coming from Windows Phone 8.1. If you want to know what's the overhead to CPU or to recording, there's very little overhead to the CPU. Most of this is done at the GPU, and we make sure we prioritize so we don't drop frames for your application. So just play with it. Like, look at, hey, what do I want to capture? Do I want to capture BGA or do I want to capture 720p? Look at your overhead. There will be a little bit of GPU, CPU, and memory overhead. But for example, the memory overhead is linear. So it's not like we're going to take a lot of memory. As you keep recording something longer, we keep caching it and saving it. So it's not going to be huge amounts of overhead. You should be able to run screen recorded in low-end memory devices. Moving on to connected experiences, I've been talking to you about Microsoft and being able to go across, phone, tablet, PC, and console. And that's one thing that I want you to make sure as you leave from the conversation, you understand that we expect you to connect all these experiences, right? We want your users to roam. If somebody is playing on their phone, on the ride home, on the bus ride home, they need to be able to continue playing it on the PC or on the tablet when they get home. So we need to make sure that at a minimum, when you ride your game, you implemented roaming settings. If you want to do something more, we give you Windows Azure. There's plenty of samples that show you how to connect Azure for doing your leaderboard or for doing saving something across the different screens. You can also use OneDrive, or if you're riding a console game and you're part of Xbox Live, you can use Xbox Live services. So we have a lot. I just want to make sure that because we give you so many different screens, that you play to our strengths and you actually ROM the settings so that the user can go through very quickly. I'm going to just highlight very quickly how we're doing on the store, because I'm going to move fast. And the one thing that I want to say about the store is everything's trending very, very positively. There's a lot of other sessions on the store. So you can go to Bernardo Zamora's sessions on maximizing revenue. There's also a panel on the store. And there was a session that was in parallel to this one that was called Publishing Windows Apps, where they're going to talk about store benefits. So you want to go watch that session if you missed it right now. But we're trending very positively. We're like literally double in almost all categories. We're 116% growth on apps, right? So year over year, over the last year, we kind of doubled the number of apps. We're also increasing the number of downloads, right? And we're increasing our mobile operator revenue by 184%, right? That's like a significant amount. And our in-app purchase just boosted in the last quarter. Right now in the store, 50% in our stores, 50% of the revenue is now coming from in-app purchase. So we just boosted quite a bit. Like in the last month, in the last quarter, it doubled, right? So we're doing a lot of great stuff there. We're seeing a lot of progress there. And there's 3 areas that we're investing into. We're making sure that your applications are more discoverable. On the Windows Store, you saw earlier today at the keynote, we now have the store icon on the desktop, right? We make sure that people can pin apps and go back in and out applications much quicker. We're improving your monetization. We're, for example, changing the price tiers. We have 99 cents on Windows Store. We have $1.29 on Windows Store. So we're making sure that people can improve monetization. On Windows Phone, we added in-app purchase on landscape. Because before we only had it on portrait. Now you can go in there and do landscape. So we're adding all of these small little things that keep decreasing the friction and increasing your monetization. We're having a lot of improvements on our ads SDK. But the big one that we're still working on is very much like, I was here a year ago and we say, hey, we're working on convergence. Our stores are also working on convergence. We've made a lot of progress. Now you register once. Now you can pay one registration. Our portal is coming together. And we have this new concept that you saw earlier at the keynote with universal Windows apps. Right? So that's an app that you can go in there and say, oh, here's an app that I can run, or somebody can buy on Windows Phone and they can run on Windows Store. And if there's durables or there's any kind of commerce that I want to do, the user will be able to see those across the board. Their settings will be ROM. There's all this concept of an application that seamlessly roams. And we're working on those. We're working on some more convergence towards the future. This is the one area that I can tell you we're not fully done there. So that's a little bit of what we have. I want to leave you with my checklist for you to make great games. Because I focused on telling you where we're at, and I focused on our strengths, telling you all of the, hey, you can go target all screens, you can do all these things. And I want to make sure that everybody here who leaves looks at this checklist and said, oh, this is what I need to do to make sure I have a really great game. I need to handle input, right? Touch, keyboard, mouse, controller, sensors, right? We have a myriad of screens, and therefore you're going to have a myriad of inputs, and you need to optimize for those. Our platform supports all of these out of the box, right? So there's APIs, there's great support. You just got to do a little bit of that work, right? Same thing for screens. We go from that little Nokia 520 to the big screen. So you need to make sure you're testing, and you need to make sure you're planning for it. The APIs are there. We have a lot of work that we've done, for example, with DirectX feature levels, or high-density displays. We try to help you as much as we can, but we cannot do it all. So you will have to do a little bit. Same thing for testing on low-memory devices, something we want you to do. Right? We want you to drive engagement so your games succeed. So do tiles, do notifications, do screen sharing, all the things that I just showed you. Right? So you can go through the list on your own. This is where we're at. I want you to go out there and write really great games. So make sure whenever you ship a game, you look through this list and you have all checks. Now I want to bring Matt Sandy. He's a program manager on Direct3D. And he's going to tell you about where we're going with Threshold and DirectX 12. So Matt, take it from us. Yep.
So DirectX 12. So what is DirectX 12? Well, quite simply, it's the API you've been waiting for. In addition to a slew of new tools, DirectX 12 will also revolutionize how game developers program the GPU with Direct3D 12. So let's take a step back and ask how we got here. Well, we asked you and thousands of other game developers what they wanted out of an API. What we heard was that you wanted more low-level access and better control of hardware, similar to what you get on fixed platforms like Xbox One. You also wanted us to get rid of all the overhead between your application and the hardware, so you can get consistent and reliable performance results. And finally, you wanted us to continue expanding the bleeding edge of rendering technology. All, of course, with excellent tools for support. So we worked with our IHV partners and internal to Microsoft, and we came up with Direct3D 12. So what is Direct3D 12? Well, it's more direct. In addition to excellent new performance improvements, it's closer to the metal than ever before. So with better performance and closer match to hardware, you can expect to get faster, more complex scenes than ever before. So, and also we know that an API is only as good as the tools that support it. So we're announcing today that with the release of DirectX 12, on day one, you will have excellent tools to support your development for debugging and profiling as well. Now, this all sounds good on paper, but you may be asking yourself, can Microsoft really deliver on this? Well, I've got up here with me, I've got an NVIDIA machine running DirectX 12 pre-release drivers on DirectX 12 class hardware. Now, you saw the Forza demo this morning, but I want to show you something a little bit more modest. Now, what I'm going to show you is actually a code sample. And some of you may recognize this as the multi-threading sample from the DirectX 11 SDK. But now that we've ported it to Direct3D 12, we actually see significant multi-threading performance improvements and general performance improvements across the board. Now, this is all good and well, but if you want a real treat, stick around in this room for the next session, where you'll see some real performance numbers running not just on a code sample, but on a real AAA game engine. So I hope you enjoyed the demo, and I'll hand it back to Jamie, who will wrap up the session.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
So again, Max has a session right after this, and he's going to go really deep, and you're going to get a lot of the details on what the improvements are. And if everybody here saw the Forza demo on the keynote, so DirectX, I was just laughing. DirectX 12 is more. Way for us to describe that? Let us know, because I've been thinking about that one for a while, and I haven't cracked it. And I'm just going to close with this. I started telling you there's never been a better time to build a game that targets, PC, tablets, phone, and Xbox. And I just want you to go out there and get ready. Start building. Ship your games now. I have a couple quotes. Last December, I was at an event in the UK. We had it's a weekend portathon where we ported Unity games, and we had 15 companies showed up, and about half of them shipped their games. It was only a weekend, literally 2.5 days. And from the half that showed their games, we created a little case study, and every one of them, these were all small indies, every one of them was very, very surprised with how good their games did on the store. Right? Somebody was like, hey, I had 150,000 downloads in the first week. Right? That was a Windows Phone game, and it was only Windows Phone, so that's a really good number. Right? Other people were like, oh, we're really excited about how we're monetizing. So right now, it's still a really great time for you to get started, and our platform is ready. It's never been easier for you to go across our screens. It's never been easy for you to come from a different platform. So for those of you out there that have some games, just go ahead and get started and bring them in. I have a really big For More info that has a bunch of sessions that you should check out. I'm going to leave these on for the rest of the session. Actually, I'll go back here. You'll just go look, if you want to go look at the deck that you can download, you can get my email and Mark Paley's email. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. And then I'll leave this one back on so that you can see some of the reference. And I do want to show you the last one, which is your feedback's important. Please scan the QR code and evaluate the session And I'll come back to this one for a minute so you can kind of see all the sessions. There's a lot more gaming sessions throughout the conference. We just wanted to give you teasers of what you could see with, for example, contracts and notification center, et cetera, so you know where to go for the rest of the conference. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you have a great conference.